Greetings, everyone. Coach Brad Anderson here with the Forest Hills Rugby Club, and I wanted to reach out to families and players. We were not able to have a normal parent and family meeting this year for obvious reasons, so I wanted to reach out to you about rugby rules, about the game itself, and how this season is going to unfold. I figured better late than never. Hopefully you're able to watch this week, and it answers some of those questions. I'm a new coach with rugby, but I have 16 seasons under my belt with the FHC varsity wrestling squad. I'm also a veteran teacher at Forest Hills Central High School, but this is my first season as a rugby coach. I played when I was in college briefly, and I've always had a love and affinity for the game, and I'm glad to be a part of the rugby club and help your young athletes develop, more importantly than athleticism, a love for the game of rugby. It is a lifelong game that I hope that they enjoy for many, many years after learning it with the Forest Hills Rugby Club. So let's talk about rugby, the season, some rules, and a little bit about our philosophy. The Forest Hills Rugby Club was founded in 1997 by some interested players here in Forest Hills, and I've actually had some of the alumni reach out to me recently about getting involved. That's the really neat thing about rugby is it gets into your spirit, it gets into your veins, and it never leaves. The club is operated by a board president, a vice president, treasurer, secretary, and club coaches. Basically, people who are interested in the game. Maybe they had a son play, maybe they played themselves, maybe they played for a different team, but they get involved because they want to foster and develop and facilitate the playing of rugby here in Forest Hills and to develop that love of the game within our high school ranks. It is a non-funded club sport, although we are affiliated with Forest Hills, and their athletic departments do help us with a trainer. They help us with field scheduling, with some equipment. It is ran through a separate club, an entity, and so it's a unique experience for the coaches and for the players and for the families. And so we run a little bit differently through an organization that we'll talk about, affiliated with the Michigan Youth Rugby Association, commonly referred to as MIRA. And by now, hopefully you have registered on their site in order to play in the game upcoming this week. Proudly, the Deadheads, as their nickname, were the state champions in 1997, 2004, 2006, and 2012. So we have a strong history of rugby here in Forest Hills and an interested bunch of guys, and hopefully we'll do our best to maintain that tradition, which is a tradition of courage. It takes courage to get on the rugby pitch. It is not an easy game. It is a fun game. It is a fast game, but it's not easy, and it's complicated, and not many of the players have experience, but we're trying to change that, and we're trying to bring a spirit of rugby to Forest Hills. We're trying to show the great aspects of the game so that many more players and younger players can eventually experience this great sport. We also preach loyalty to one another. When we step out of our halls, be it in Ranger Country, Husky Nation, or Hawk Territory, we like to think of ourselves as a united group of rugby players, the Deadheads, and which is our nickname and has been the nickname since the 1990s. And it's part of the tradition. It's a unique symbol, and it's currently painted on the Spirit Rock at Forest Hills Central. And I know our alumni, our board, and our current players are very proud of our symbol, and we'll make the Deadheads proud. We have a strong alumni following. Jared Ross is our board president, and he is an alumni and former Deadhead himself. But I guess he's always a Deadhead, and so we've had many more players come back and want to help. Players like Wyatt Engler, we've had Brandon Weiskopf and Ben Fabiano, who have all contributed their time to helping these younger players develop and learn the rules, because it is a game, again, that a lot of these players are learning for the first time, which I commend. It takes courage to learn that new game. And then, of course, we talk a lot about sportsmanship. Rugby is a game of sportsmanship that, it fosters that true respect for the laws, a true respect for the officials. And I know that our alumni following and their involvement really wants to encourage and foster that tradition of courage, loyalty, and sportsmanship. You can visit our website at foresthillsrugby.com. It's fairly new. We have links on there to Myra. We have the link on there to the Radco ordering site. We have our gear here, our uniforms and our shorts and our t-shirts and quarter zips that you could have ordered earlier in the season. If there is an interest again, we can open the store back up, but we do have minimum orders and quotas that we have to meet. But we can do that later on if there's a generated interest. But check out ForestHillsRugby.com. I have a newsletter on there. I did a preseason newsletter. I usually do a postseason newsletter or midseason maybe. But you can check out a newsletter that kind of goes into the beginning of the season. And as a history teacher, I like to document the activities of our club. The Facebook group is the Forest Hills Rugby Club, and it has a wide following. So I've started putting updates on there, as well as one of our coaches, our beloved coach, Ken Smith, who has a wealth of information and a wealth of rugby knowledge. He's forgotten more about rugby than I know. And so, he's posting on there as well, or has. And so we'll try to keep that up to date. So those of you that are into that modality of social media can follow it that way. And then, of course, Twitter. That sends updates out kind of to the Twitterverse and to people. And so it's a promotional tool. For those of you that follow, I do up-to-the-minute scores, do a little bit of hype. And so you can follow us on @FH Rugby. The Sport of Rugby mythically started with William Webb Ellis picking up the rugby ball during a game of soccer, picking up the ball during a game of soccer and running forward at the rugby school in 1823. The rugby union rules are the rules that we follow, 15 versus 15 players on the field. The object is to carry the ball over the opponent's goal line and score a try. The ball moves forward by a series of running the ball, passing the ball backward, and kicking the ball forward. The game starts off with a kickoff, as you will see at our first game, and players contend for the ball by tackling, rucking, and scrumming. And if those terms, other than tackling, are unfamiliar to you, essentially rucking is contending for the ball over the tackled player. And it's a series where the team that is attacking, moving forward, is trying to maintain possession of the ball, while the team that was defending against the attack tries to move forward and gain access and contend for the ball as well. And then scrumming is the large interlocking 8 players that you see popularly in social media and on TV, where the forwards all interlock one another after a penalty. Scoring includes a try, which is 5 points, a kick after the try, which is 2, a drop kick or penalty kick, which is 3. An official, referenced as a sir, administers the laws of the game while encouraging continuous play. So the best officials and referees, they're able to pinpoint infractions of the rules, but also allow for continuation of play, because after all, we're there to play. But you will see them stop from time to time and award penalties, which will result in a tap and go or a line out or a penalty kick. This year, the scrums are going to be limited simply because, not for any other reason, that we had such a short prep time going into season. The scrum, as you can imagine, is a intricate art to teach in a short amount of time. Rugby has a unique spirit of camaraderie and decorum and tradition, respect, and fair play. And that's what I love about it, and I know that's what my fellow coaches and alumni love about it, and that is what attracts us and brings us back. It is that camaraderie and that spirit of respect and fair play. And so we encourage that in our players, which, it can be different than other sports where, rugby, there's not a whole lot of showboating. There's no trash talking. It's clean language on the field, and we really encourage our players to be gentlemen on the field and play hard, but also respect the opponents and respect the sir. And the only people that should be speaking to the sir on the field are the captains. And those are the only people that he will speak to. Rugby is played globally and is popular in countries like Scotland, New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, England, and Wales. In fact, you can YouTube Six Nations Rugby 2021, and you can watch any number of really great, very current games between some great Northern Hemisphere teams. It's a real hoot. So I encourage you to check it out. The positions. Teams are divided into forwards and backs. Forwards are numbered 1 through 8, are typically big, strong guys that move the ball forward through a lot of traffic. And it looks like they're kind of plowing forward a little bit at a time, and that's kind of their job. Backs, numbered 9 through 15, use speed, endurance, and space to advance the ball forward, preferably in the open field out to the side. And you will see those players doing so with weaving and looping tactics that we've been practicing. Each player is assigned based on experience, skill, size, speed, and strength, and we try to put people in positions where they will be successful, have fun, and be able to be a part of the game and contribute. And we might move people in positions. It's not rock etched in stone as to what position you're going to play. We may move players around based on what we see throughout the season. So it wouldn't be uncommon for you to see your player play in one position one week and then play in another position the other week. They are, after all, expected to know some of the positions around them. If by chance someone is red carded or someone has to leave the game, they might have to assume that position. The next slide has the position names. You have the loose head prop, the hooker, the tight head prop, the 4 lock, the 5 lock, the blindside flanker, the open side flanker, and the number 8 man. They're literally called the number 8 man. And they're kind of the connection to the scrum half. And the scrum half is the person who kind of directs the ball back either with the forwards or out to the backs. You have the fly half, the wing, the inside center, the outside center, the left wing, and the fullback. And so you'll see these players really develop a sense of ownership on the field as to their positions. And by now, your players should be assigned a position for the upcoming first game, and hopefully they are studying their position and maybe watching some games to take a look at how their position is played and what it looks like in a game. The 2021 season, by now you should have registered with the Michigan Youth Rugby Association. There's a small cost associated with that. We don't have a pay-to-play cost with the school because we are a non-funded school sport, but you do have to pay through the Michigan Youth Rugby Association, and there may be small dues associated with our own club as the season progresses if any costs are incurred, but right now it looks like the COVID testing is being covered by the school. All players must COVID test weekly in order to play and practice. All players must be registered with their home school through final forms. If there is an outside school other than Forest Hills, please reach out to me and we can get you pointed in the right direction and make sure that you are registered properly. Players must also be able to provide either school or Michigan ID to play in the game. This is something new that came at me this week, so please forgive my late notice. But what I'll do at the next practice is I will ask your son or player to bring their school or Michigan ID. I will click a picture of that to keep it on file in case they forget it on the day of the game. It is simply so that we know, or the association knows, that the person playing that we say is so-and-so is actually so-and-so. Our club plays in the Myra West Side Tier 1 with other teams like Rockford and Granville, other large area teams. We'll go over the schedule here in a minute. Players will be required to wear a jersey, rugby shorts, white socks, cleats, mouthguard, and mask. You can buy extra white shorts on Amazon. The Gilbert shorts are the best, the ones that we ordered. Those are great for practice. Those can be worn in games, but you can also purchase extra shorts, and it's not a bad idea to have an extra pair of rugby shorts on you. Mouth guards are required and masks are required in the game per COVID restrictions. All spectators must abide by MHSA COVID guidelines as well, and those are changing day to day. I have a microphone. I'll be announcing those at the game, and we ask that you abide by those because that's the only way that we're allowed to play. And if the other team sees that the host school is not abiding by the COVID restrictions, we forfeit the game. And the guys don't want that. So if you're in the stands, wear a mask, socially distance, if that's what the current guidelines are, and do what you can to make sure your player gets to stay on the field and play. The focus this year is on fun and fellowship and fair play and fortitude. We've had a heck of a year, so I'm just glad to be out on the rugby pitch and be together with these guys, and I know that they are really, really pumped up and inspired and having a great time. So let's encourage them to have fun, enjoy the time with one another, have fair play out on the field, and develop some fortitude along the way. Schedule and games. Regular practices are Mondays and Thursdays, 7 to 8:30. We've extended that. We have Sunday scrimmages where we kind of get on the field and see how we can play and figure things out, and we use it as a teaching tool. There's some optional toss around, which is organized by the players. And then competition schedule, April 30th, May 5th, May 8th, May 20th, May 26th, and then the Tier 1 playoffs. So you can check out our schedule at our website, and if there's any updates, I will update you through email or the Remind messaging app. We ask for respectful cheering, avoid heckling the official or the other team. This is highly frowned upon in rugby. Players play, coaches coach, officials officiate, and parents cheer. And we ask that you abide by that. We need volunteers. We already have a photographer. We may need line judges, so I might be reaching out, and basic concessions. Usually games are followed by socials with other teams because of COVID. We won't be doing that this year, unfortunately. Hopefully we're back to it. In closing, I really appreciate you allowing your son to play or your player to play. Rugby is a lifetime sport, and we're going to have a great season with the Forest Hills Rugby Club.